The fantasy football playoffs are here.
Yay for everybody else.
I don't like a playoff league, PT.
6 and 7, not going to get it done in my league, Gil.
My league, you go right to the end. You got fantasy football all year long. Why would I knock somebody out if I don't have to? But if you're in a playoff league, we'll help you out as well. If you're going all the way to the end, we'll help you out as well. You can send us your questions to the text board at 609-403-0973 if you have a fantasy football question for Jeff Pasquino for the footballguys.com, as he's back to help you guys out for Week 14 as we get ready after last night's Thursday night. We got a ton of games on Sunday to get you ready for. Jeff, welcome back, pal.
Good to be back, Mike. You say that every year about not having playoffs, and I get that. But some people pack it in too, so you have to watch out for those leagues that go all the way to the end.
Yeah. We have some things built into our league to try to prevent that. If you don't turn your lineup in, you can find people. We actually, in my league, if you finish, the top 4 teams get finish in the money. The 5th place team, if you finish one spot out, you get first choice of where you want to pick the next year. So it gives you incentive to move up the standings instead of tank and stay down the standings. See?
Those are good rules, yeah.
All right, let's get some information for our listeners out there. Got some questions coming in for Jeff, 609-403-0973. You can text your question in. Start off with some quarterbacks here. Kirk Cousins, he's loved that Eagle green.
Yeah, I think he's been hot lately, and you have to think that Washington's pushing for a playoff spot. So I think he's definitely QB1 this week against the Eagles.
Kaepernick was a guy that people were jumping on. He's got the Jets this week. He was dreadful last week against the Bears. You trust in Kaepernick if you need a playoff QB?
It's hard to say trust in Kaepernick in the same sentence right now, but if you scratch off last week, it's like it never happened because he's never played in snow before, and he was benched after only 5 pass attempts. He's got a good matchup this week. I think he's a high-end QB2 with some upside. I would roll him out there if you got him and get nothing better else to put out there.
What about Mariota against the Broncos? This was a guy that was on a fire. He was on a roll. He was, weeks 9 through 12. He was the man. How about the Broncos this week?
I think the Broncos defense is really good, especially against the pass. So I have him as a quarterback 2 this week. They're probably going to roll coverage over Delanie Walker. And they're really tough against that. They're going to be running the ball for Tennessee. That's the weakness of Denver. They're going to run the ball at least 40 times.
A lot of Matt Stafford owners out there. They got the Bears. I'm in the playoffs. He had 340 last week, 2 touchdowns. Is Stafford a go-to guy?
He's definitely in the top 10 this week, so I think he's definitely a start against the Bears. The Bears are basically a AAA ball club right now.
All right. How about Jameis Winston against the Saints? 250, 3 touchdowns, 2 interceptions the last 2 weeks for Jameis Winston. Is he a playoff quarterback?
I think he is, and he's got not just this week, but he has the Saints 2 weeks from now as well. So I think he's a great option down the stretch, and I've been collecting him wherever I can just for that very reason.
Jeff Pasquino from the footballguys.com taking your fantasy football questions. If you have a question for Jeff, send it to our text board, 609-403-0973. All right, let's look at running backs here, Jeff, as we look at how about a guy like Jeremy Hill up against the Browns? Guy who scores a lot of touchdowns.
Yeah, and he's had good success in the past against Cleveland. They do limit his touches, but against the Browns and probably adverse weather conditions, at least it's definitely going to be cold, I think this is a good spot for Hill to put up running back 1 type numbers.
Why do I go from Jeremy Hill to Forte? You look for teams that play the worst teams in the league. Forte's up against the 49ers, but I feel like I haven't heard from Forte since like week 1.
Yeah, he's been losing touches here and there to Bilal Powell, and the Jets been trying to figure out their quarterback situation, which continues to this day. That's pretty much what you hear about mostly for the Jets, but very quietly, Forte is doing quite well, and I think that he's in my top 5 this week.
What about last week? You look at Green Bay. They haven't been running the ball all that much. How about James Starks against the Seahawks? If you're looking for a guy to run that's going to get the ball a lot, is James Starks that guy?
No, he's not. Starks is he was basically pulled last week in favor of Montgomery and Christine Michael. They have a 3-headed monster, which is a mess back there. Montgomery probably first, but I would not go with any of them comfortably in a game this week.
Rashad Jennings against the Cowboys. They've been running the ball better. Do you feel good with a giant running back?
In a point-per-catch league, I would put him in as a flex because he catches a few balls out of the backfield, but I think you're looking more for an Eli Manning to Odell Beckham game against Dallas.
Okay, let's go to some wideouts. If you have a question for Jeff, make sure you continue to get them in on the text board, 609-403-0973. If you have a fantasy football question for Jeff, we'll get to them in just a second. How about Deshaun Jackson? Could be his last time against the Eagles before he joins them maybe next year.
That's right.
We'll see. But how about D-Jack against his former team?
That is the rumor, and I think he's going to be auditioning for a new contract in his old city on Sunday. So I think that he's going to get a few deep looks from Kirk Cousins, and I think he's going to connect on at least one of them and have a nice little end zone dance in front of his former fans.
How about let's look at how about Terrell Pryor against the Bengals this week? Good spot for Pryor?
I really don't trust anybody for the Browns right now. Again, it's going to be cold, windy conditions. Pryor will still get volume, but you got RG3 at quarterback now. It's really a mess. I would try. Now, I will say this. The Browns probably have their best shot at getting a win this week for the rest of the year, so they're going to be up for it after coming off of a bye, but I still don't trust them in fantasy.
Okay, a couple more wide receivers. Let's go to Tennessee. You talked about Mariota. How about a guy like Kendall Wright or Rashard Matthews against the Broncos?
If I was going to pick one receiver for Tennessee this week, it would be Delanie Walker, but I think that we could see Talib on him, so that really diminishes all the value. I think they're really more of a hope and a prayer kind of guys in your lineup. I would look elsewhere for value this week.
I know a lot of times we don't get into the tight ends, but I think with the playoffs here, we'll throw a couple tight ends your way. With Gronk out, Bennett seems like the obvious guy. Is he a must-start?
No, he's not. He's just not seeing the volume that we would expect, and it's not consistent. So he's a borderline tight end one, but we have a dozen guys ahead of him. Even like C.J. Federowicz is even ahead of him this week on the rating. So there's plenty of tight ends I like, and I'll mention one of them in a moment that I like better than Bennett.
How about we'll go Jermaine Gresham. He's at the Dolphins. He was able to get 5 for 52 last week against the Redskins. He had been a kind of an afterthought, but how about Gresham this week?
That game is kind of interesting because there's looking to be some heavy rain down in Miami, so we got to watch the weather report again. December, got to watch the weather no matter what. But Gresham has seen a lot of targets, but it's not consistent in that passing game. Carson Palmer has done pretty well lately, but I think he's more of a tight end too this week for Gresham. Okay,
we'll get to the questions now with Jeff Pasquino from thefootballguys.com. If you have a fantasy football question for Jeff, now's the time to send them in to the text board at 609-403-0973. All right, here we go. Let's see what you got, Jeff. A couple text messages on the quarterbacks. Flex player, who do you go with? LaFell, Booker, Hyde, or Inman?
I like LaFell just from a volume standpoint, especially in PPR leagues.
How about Malcolm Mitchell or Inman over Benjamin, Calvin Benjamin?
I do like Mitchell a lot this week. I think that's one of the guys I was saving for later. He gets a lot of looks now from Brady.
How about Tyrell Williams as a start?
I like him a lot. I think that San Diego, Carolina defense funnels the ball to the passing on defense. Williams is going to get a lot of targets from Phillip Rivers this week.
PPR flex pick 2: Rawls, Hyde, Brandon Marshall, or Jamison Crowder.
All right. I like Rawls and Hyde. I think that Marshall is not going to be a consistent quarterback, and Crowder is going to feel some impact with the tight end Reed coming back.
How about that quarterback, Kirk Cousins or Matt Ryan? Matt Ryan's interesting this week, I think. He's been probably the top-scoring quarterback in a lot of leagues, but I feel like a lot of people don't want to play him this week. Should they play Ryan or Cousins?
I would go with Cousins because Matt Ryan's favorite target, Julio Jones, is questionable this week.
How about Willie Snead or Deshaun Jackson?
In PPR league, I would go with Snead. In a touchdown, I look for Jackson.
Quarterback question, Matt Ryan or Cam Newton?
I like Cam this week. I think that San Diego gives a lot of rushing touchdowns. That spells a touchdown for Cam.
How about at running back, T.J. Yeldon or Thomas Rawls?
I don't think there's any situation I'd pick T.J. Yeldon, so it's going to be Thomas Rawls.
Talking with Jeff Pasquino from thefootballguys.com here. Are you feeling safe with Jordan Reed in your lineup this week?
Cautiously optimistic is how I'd say it. Anytime you get a player coming back from injury, it's tough to put him in, but if he's ready to go, he's got the talent to put up good numbers.
How about Rivers or Russell Wilson at quarterback?
Russell Wilson has not played a lot in cold weather. I like Rivers this week.
All right, Jeff Pasquino from thefootballguys.com answering your fantasy football questions. Jeff, give us some guys, maybe some under-the-radar guys that you think should be in lineups this week.
At running back, one guy that's getting overlooked, and it's going to be in the local game, is Rob Kelly. He's getting a lot of volume, so he could put up some solid numbers if you need him this week at running back. Wide receiver, we mentioned Mitchell for New England. I like him a lot. I also like Taylor Gabriel for Atlanta if Julio Jones is out, and Emmanuel Sanders if Simeon is starting, which we think he's going to be. In tight end, there's lots of good options, but one of my favorites is Cameron Brate for Tampa Bay. Tampa Bay has lost a lot at the wide receiver position. Mike Evans still sees a lot of targets, but Brate is essentially the second option in that passing game.
All right, Rob Kelly against the Eagles, as he mentioned, for the Skins. Gabriel, guy I like, too. I got on the Tyreek Hill bandwagon a couple of weeks ago, and he's helping me out a lot there. And, of course, Jeff was kind enough to give us that suggestion. I picked up on it. If you're in the playoffs, good luck to everybody out there. If you're going straight through to the end, keep turning those lineups in. Don't be a deadbeat owner. Jeff Pasquino from thefootballguys.com answering your Week 4 fantasy football questions. Jeff, good luck.
Good luck, everybody, and enjoy the games.